Joining me from Tel Aviv is Michael Oren, who served as ambassador to the U.S. under Prime Minister Netanyahu from 2009 to 2013. Michael, welcome. Do you think that Israel will go ahead with the Rafah operation as it had planned?
Good to be with you, Fareed. Yes, I do. I think Israel is going to go ahead with the Rafah operation. It receives overwhelming support both by the Israeli public within the government, but I think Israel is going to have to be very, very cautious to reduce as much as possible the civilian casualties on the Palestinian side and try to meet the Biden administration to the greatest degree possible halfway.
I was told that the plans that the Israeli government presented to the Biden administration the Biden administration thought were almost laughable. They were, they were going to put millions of people in tents. That it just didn't seem like they had a real plan to alleviate the humanitarian crisis that would result.
Well, I know that Israel has gone and Israeli representatives have talked several times with the Biden administration with these plans, that the Israeli planners are convinced that these plans are workable and will greatly reduce Palestinian civilian casualties. The great challenge is you're dealing with an enemy, Hamas, which is using these Palestinians as human shields and is actually using the landscape of Gaza as a shield, because underneath the Rafah area are dozens and dozens of miles of tunnels, and underneath those tunnels, within those tunnels, are also Israeli hostages, as many as 130, which we hope remain alive in the hands of Hamas. So the challenges here are immense, and Israel is going to have to, on one hand, achieve its strategic goal of eliminating Hamas and ensuring that Hamas cannot return, rearm, reorganize, and use Gaza once again as a staging ground for barbarous attacks against Israel. On the other hand, Israel has to preserve its relationship with the Biden administration.
Let me ask you about that strategic goal, because what we're seeing in northern Gaza now is, after Israel did a massive operation in which it claimed to have eliminated Hamas, is the return of Hamas. Insurgency, the Israeli troops are battling again. This is a familiar, certainly to Americans. It's exactly what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, I mean, this is one of the reasons it seems to me the Biden administration was pressing, that eliminating these last few battalions in Gaza at enormous cost is not worth it, because there will always be insurgents out there.
Well, I would agree that you can eliminate Hamas as a military threat. You can't get rid of the idea of Hamas. Anywhere you can get rid of the idea of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or even the Muslim Brotherhood. Yes, it's going to be a long-term counterinsurgency fight, such as America waged in Iraq and eventually won through its surge in Iraq. And so, yes, Israel will have to continue to fight, various cells of Hamas that will spring up, and not just in Gaza, but on the West Bank as well. It's an ongoing fight, but eliminating these battalions will remove Hamas's ability to reorganize and restage these types of attacks. Absolutely crucial.
If the Biden administration says, as a consequence of Israel doing this, certainly they have been saying in the past, if Israeli policy on Rafah doesn't change, then American policy toward Israel will have to change. Presumably that means some kind of conditionality on the military aid the United States is giving. If that happens, would that have the effect of changing Israeli policy?
I don't think so. I think Israel is committed to concluding the battle against Hamas. Again, it has overwhelming support in the Israeli public, even at the expense of strained relationship with the Biden administration. Now, let's be clear. I don't represent Israel's government anymore. I'm not ambassador anymore, and I have my own opinions. I think that that Israel can meet the president halfway on other issues. For example, the Biden administration wants to talk about a day after scenario for Gaza. The Biden administration wants to talk about the possibility of involving the Palestinian Authority, which will be revamped or revitalized with a role in governance post-war Gaza. The Biden administration wants to talk about a pathway to a Palestinian state. I think it's worthwhile for Israel to engage in all of these discussions.
Let me ask you about this, the day after post-war planning. It seemed to me you were just saying that Israel will have to be essentially in a permanent occupation of Gaza, because there will be an insurgency and it will have to fight it. How is that compatible with handing over power? The PA is not going to take over and enforce Israel's security concerns by shooting Palestinians, is it?
Well, I don't think it necessarily involves a long-term occupation, but does involve a long-term Israeli involvement in security. Israel is involved in security control, even in areas under the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. So there are models for this.
Michael Oren, always good to have you on.
Great to be with you too. Thank you, Fareed.